Dear participants of the masterclass, in a relatively short time you've analyzed many situations, used the content of the YEP curriculum to create perspectives on those situations and come up with many ideas that each of you can try out and learn from. There's so much richness in your work, and there are so many ways in which you can even increase this richness, as many of you have provided links to sources on the internet, to books, to talks, to videos, to people and so on. Very well done. It's very nice to see, and I can imagine it's a very useful source of ideas for all of you. The majority of the work that you created is situated around working without that much power. Many situations look like I want to do something, I'm very motivated to make something happen, but I don't get my team to do certain things and I don't have the formal power to make them do these things. I can imagine why that is, as many of you have become new members of existing organizations and are hired to work in teams on projects. In existing organizations, there are usually strong power relations, there are clear hierarchies that have been built upon and maintained for many years. When you enter the organization and are put on a project, you most likely will not have that much power. Partly because you are not hired for a role high up in the hierarchy, and partly because you are new in the organization and supposed to get your influence over time as some sort of process of maturation. Many of you have analyzed situations using theories, concepts and ideas such as influence without power or situational leadership and so on. These are all part of the YEP curriculum, and I can see why, as almost all of you seem to encounter this in real life. So I thought, let me introduce something different in this video, another way of thinking, a new model basically, that you can also use to look at situations such as these, most likely giving you new perspectives and with it new ways to address situations such as these. There is of course no right or wrong here, I just want to add something new that might be useful to you. Generally, when people meet a problematic situation, they have the tendency to jump to the first thing that looks like a solution for that problem and defend that solution against the ideas for solutions of other people. In hierarchies, this tendency often leads to the implementation of solutions brought up by the most influential people. And as soon as a certain idea is considered a solution for an existing problem, there are also ideas about the criteria in the end that judge whether the situation has improved or not. And now you enter somewhere in this process, most likely after the decision for a certain solution. You enter the situation with lots and lots of motivation to make something better, to improve situations, to do something useful, to do something meaningful. But basically you have entered a situation in which it is already been decided what should change in the situation, how that should change, and what the measures are for successful change. You cannot just do whatever you think is good. Your influence is limited. Let me give you an example. There is an institute for public education funded by the government of a country. For years, this institute has received money and educated students. Suddenly, someone asked the question how much that education costs, and as a result, someone else decided that the efficiency of this institute should increase substantially. Students should finish their education much sooner than they do now, so that a lot of money will be saved. The people high up in the hierarchy of that educational institute were suddenly faced with a new criterion for success, exam passing rates of their students. And the new objective, increasing that passing rate. They decided that at the end of every course, students should be asked what they thought of that course, and that the teachers should do something with that feedback. In this way, the directors of the institute thought all the elements in the courses that slow down students will be removed and passing rates will increase. Now you enter as a young teacher with all your ideas about what good education is and the motivation to do a very good teaching job. But you're faced with two criteria. Good teaching job is. how well do students like my course, and the passing rate of my course. This might be very different from your ideas about good education. Now, where can you influence this? Remember, this is a thinking model. It represents a simplified version of reality. Using this model is basically a thinking skill that you can learn. You are faced with a fixed idea about the problem, a fixed idea about the solution for that problem, and a fixed idea about how to measure success. You can't just do whatever you want. The question remains, where can you influence this? Well, in case your role is that of a consultant, an analyst, or an advisor, either external or internal to the organization, you can be involved in analyzing the situation as it is, thus having your influence on what is considered the problem. When you can be present in the meetings and in the discussions where it's decided what to do about the problem, you can influence what kind of solutions are considered and which one will be chosen. As people tend to jump to a particular solution, it's good practice in this stage to try to increase the number of possible solutions as much as possible. The larger the solution space that you create, the higher the chance that there is a good solution in that space. But most likely you will enter the situation only after it has already been decided what the problem is and what the solution is. In that case, what you basically can do is to search for windows of opportunity to influence this process. You can, for instance, be part of a periodic evaluation of the process, analyze the evaluation data and feed the influential people, such as the directors, with that information. Then it's up to them to do something with it. And if they can shine with your information, chances are that they will use it. Windows of opportunity also tend to emerge when people leave or enter the power hierarchy. Only during the times that these windows are open, there is a chance that you have some influence. After that period, the windows close and the process is fixed again for some time. When the windows are closed, there is not so much you can do to change the overall process. However, it's good practice to, in your daily work, determine for yourself what your circle of influence is, and especially where you do not have any influence. Listing both will make your life much happier, as then you can put your energy in these things where you might get some results instead of trying to force things and get frustrated. Summing up, using this thinking model to look at the world, you have the following opportunities to have influence. One is at the start of the process, in which influential people decide about what the problem is, what the solution is, and what the criteria measuring success are. And two, if you're not present during this stage, you will occasionally have the opportunity to influence the process during times of so-called open windows of opportunity, such as periodic evaluations, new people entering the power hierarchy, external pressure on the organization, etc. If you're not present at the start of the process and any window of opportunity is closed, you can 3. Keep yourself out of frustration by creating 2 lists, one representing your circle of influence for your daily work and one explicitly listing where you do not have any influence. You can always decide to leave the situation, of course, or even to leave the organization, but as long as you decide to stay in the situation, you better focus your energy on your circle of influence. So no frustration experience drain your energy if you try to change things that you cannot change. Again, as I said before, no right or wrong here, it's just another thinking model. This model does not help you to find your influence in the situation as it is. This model helps you to identify opportunities for influence through stepping back and looking at a higher abstraction level why the process is as it is. You can imagine it is used very often, and I coach and train people all around the world, from the novices in the organization to the highly influential, to master this analytical thinking skill. I hope it can, in addition to all the great sessions you had in the YEP curriculum and the experiences you share among each other, also be beneficial to you. I wish you all the best and talk to you soon in the online meeting that finalizes this masterclass.